debating somebody and you're on a stage, and the goal is not to convince the person on the stage. The goal is to convince the audience. And so exposing a bad view or pernicious view in a colorful way might be useful in that endeavor. So you sort of have to always know who your audience is and who you're talking to and what the goal of the conversation is. By the way, I think this is true for virtually all human conversation. I think people waste an enormous amount of time having conversations that honestly they shouldn't bother having, particularly online. Like they do that on X or they do that on Facebook, and it's like, is that time that you're going to want back on your deathbed? Are you going to look back and really think that was time well spent? So that's true of debate also. Like doing things with purpose is kind of, I think, the theme of my life very often, and whether it's with kids, with my wife, or whether it's with my business, or whether it's with debate. And so you really have to think through beforehand how it's going to go. And as you say, I think that losing your way emotionally, particularly the easiest thing to do is have your ego triggered. That's the easiest thing.
Yeah, ego's the death of man.
100%. No, that's the problem. And so I would say, if I look back at my history of confrontation, the times where I feel bad about how I performed, all of those would be, and they're pretty rare. But the big ones are times where my ego got tripped and I just got irritable and annoyed, and then you do something that in the moment feels good but is actually counterproductive.
Yeah. How do you deal with those moments, and does it stick with you? Does it hurt you? Because,
oh my gosh, years later. Yeah. I mean, I look back and I'm like, God, I wish I could have that one back. Absolutely.
Is there one in particular that you wish you could go?
Yeah, 100%. That BBC interview with Andrew Neil. So there's a BBC interview with Andrew Neil that I did. How long is this ago now? It was like 7 years ago, maybe 6 years ago, 5. I don't know. It's been a while.
What was the context around the?
So it was when Right Side History came out. So it was 2019, I believe. So the context of that was that he invited me on to discuss a book that I wrote, and then he proceeded to ask me 0 questions about the book. For 20 minutes, he just sat and badgered me about tweets that I'd written 10 years before.
Oh, so it was a trap.
Yes, and I felt trapped, and I felt annoyed because I'd been trapped. And I kind of dealt with it for a while, and then eventually I was like, you know what, this is a waste of my time, and I took off the mic and I walked off. And that was a mistake. I shouldn't have. I should have just absorbed it. I should have just taken the hit and moved on with my life.
I learned that walking away is the worst thing you do.
Particularly on the internet. Very, very bad.
Yep. Especially because they don't know the context or where you're coming from.
And also I made a move. There were moves I made in that interview where, again, I had no idea who he was. He was in Britain. I don't really care about British media. I'm American.
Double down years later.
No, I mean, America. So why do I care about British media?
I mean, it happens, obviously you're bound to, get stressed out, and people, because debating, I feel like sometimes when people don't get their way, they get personal, certainly, and they want to attack you personally.
And then you go personally back, and then that's a bad move. So what happened is that I made some sort of snide remark about how he was coming after me because I was famous and he wanted clicks, and it turns out that he's pretty well known over there, so that looked bad.
I remember that.
Yeah, exactly. So that was, again, you get...
Especially from their audience, because they're like, who the fuck are you?
Exactly.
That's so funny.
So that, those kinds of mistakes are easy to make. And so, you learn lessons from that. Like, for example, don't walk into unvetted interviews. Like, know exactly who you're talking to before you start talking to them. And if you don't know, then don't assume. Don't make assumptions about who the person is or what their political point of view is or anything like that. But the biggest one is just like, take a breath. Just take a breath. And so there are a lot of situations where before I go into what I think is a fraught situation, I'll say to myself, like, just take some deep breaths. An hour from now, it's going to be over one way or another. So you can either handle yourself in a way that you're proud of, or you can handle yourself in a way that you're not proud of, and then you'll regret that for years to come. So you may as well.
It's very stressful, though, because not only are you representing what you're standing for, but like people are using you as a bridge. So if you misrepresent who they are, even your own people don't want to associate themselves. So then you're spit out of the mouth. You're no party. What's up, guys? This video is sponsored by Life Cycle. Well, hold on before you skip, because you're like, oh, it's just an ad. It's not an ad. It's an add-on to your life. And let me tell you why. I travel with these little guys. You can get the Life Cycle, kit. I might be saying it wrong, but I'll do an overlay over here, show you what it looks like. These things have changed my life. I'm not exaggerating in any way. I want to actually stick to this one right here, the shiitake. Let me tell you why I know that this is actually real and it's not no placebo effect. I didn't know that shiitake, because I'm doing the whole cycle together, because it's all good for you, right? That's what my girlfriend told me to do, so I'm just doing all of them. The shiitake one is for your hair, skin, and nails. I didn't know that this does hair, okay? Like a dummy butt, I'm just taking the whole thing knowing it's good for me. But one day I'm looking at my hair, I'm like, whoa, bro, like my beard is getting way more full and shiny. Even my hairdresser is like, your hair's looking really healthy. And I go, what have I been doing? Have I been eating something different? And I go, oh my God, it's a Life Cycle thing. So I looked it up and other people said the same thing. So if you want to